You may remember that this is part of the chapter that talks about statute of frauds. Statute of frauds, the key element is to remember that these are where you must have things in writing. Now, again, as business people, in a perfect world, we want everything in writing, using well-written contracts. Most of us do business over and over again in the same format. So what we do is we develop what we need in a contract. We sit down with our attorney, work out it, and then once we get a contract we're happy with, we tell the people who work for us, who do sales and negotiation, this is the contract. Don't work on anybody else's contract, use this one. And then one of the things that I ask when I do that with clients is, please do not let your people make changes without running the changes through counsel. If you're filling in the blanks, it's no problem. But if you get off message and you start editing things, that's when laymen get in trouble. To give you an idea of the realization of this is, it used to be, I've been a real estate broker for a really long time. And back in the old days, when I started as a real estate salesperson, we would write all sorts of stuff into the form. We'd write all sorts of, you're going to keep the drapes, the dog stays, whatever. But it has gone to the completely the other end of things today, is that here in Texas, it's viewed as the unauthorized practice of law for a real estate agent to do anything other than fill in the blanks. So, but it's interesting because part of it is you're moving past just filling in the forms, you're really getting into another area. Now, unlike real estate, we as business people a lot of times are better qualified to negotiate the deal than the attorneys. And I say to people, you need to tell me what your deal is. What do you want? My job is to make sure the document says it and also put in any normal protections. So I want you to think about when you look at contracts and look at the way the material is worded in this section, how does this help me? How does this change the way I do business? And a lot of this stuff will come to you later when you're actually in there negotiating contracts, like, oh yeah, I remember. I need to do this because of this. So remember the basic rules of statute of frauds, what needs to be in writing. I encourage you to make a list for yourself and say, here it is. Let me review this, because you'll need that. For there'll certainly be some easy multiple choice questions coming up on quiz 2, which we do next Tuesday night.
Easy is relative.
Easy is relative. Oh, okay. Easy is relative. That's what we heard. Easy is relative. Okay. We're going to talk about the parole evidence rule. Now, note there is no E on this. It has nothing to do with parole. But this is also what we call the four corners rule. It's also taught in law school as the document speaks for itself. The concept behind this is you may not contradict a written document with oral testimony. Now, having said that, of course, there are thousands of pages of court decisions where judges have allowed them because of all sorts of special rules. But basically, if the document is clear, no further testimony is allowed. Now, there are two critical circumstances. One is there's an ambiguity. Most judges will allow parties to submit supplemental information if it is ambiguous in the document and they can make it clear. Judges are doing that in order to do justice, make sure things work out. Don't bet on that happening in your case. So we really want you to be careful with how you write so the document is complete and you can rely on it. The other one is what happens after the fact. So sometimes you're allowed to admit evidence that things happen after the document was signed. You signed the document on June 1, it's October 1, you say, in between, we made all these side deals. However, most of the time, and if you think about construction contracts, if you're working with a reputable construction company, and say you're doing a renovation of your office, you may do 15 change orders. Why are they so persistent in getting those written change orders? Because of the parole evidence rule, because they are stuck with whatever they do unless they get a written amendment. They're remember that written amendment is going to have the same status as the original contract. So that's a reflection of that. So again, two critical concepts in Chapter 18, statute of frauds, when must something be in writing? Not when should it be in writing, it's easy, everything should be in writing. But when must it be in writing in order to go into court and make it enforceable? And the parallel evidence rule relying on the written document. Yes, ma'am? Good question. Is there a maximum number of amendments? None at all. No, I mean, if you have a long-running contract that's very complex, you could probably have, hundreds of pages of amendments, and it's just the nature of the beast. Yeah, good question. Now, parallel evidence rule again is a common law contract situation. Remember our reliance on the Uniform Commercial Code. So with the Uniform Commercial Code, you have a situation where the Uniform Commercial Code again is more relaxed in many cases than the common law because it's encouraging interstate commerce among merchants and business people. So predictably, it's going to allow things to happen that might not happen under a strict common law enforcement of the parallel evidence rule. That's what this slide talks about. It says, if you have a course of dealing, we use a simple example. You have a commercial bakery. Every Tuesday and Thursday, you receive a 100-pound delivery of organic whole wheat flour. You forget on the order form to put in pounds. Or you may forget the quantity altogether. Because of a long-term course of dealing, it is reasonable for the party selling the bakery the wheat to say, we delivered 100 pounds of wheat because we've always delivered 100 pounds of wheat on Tuesday and Thursday, and we justifiably relied on that. Common law won't support that, but Uniform Commercial Code will. So always watch for whether that is in the question. Say if you're concerned about them on the quiz or the midterm, watch for if it's a code question or not.